I'm back. What's up, everybody? I am Impendingduff. Welcome back to the Quick Tip series. I took a little bit of a break from YouTube, but gonna try and crank out some videos here. The Quick Tip series is super simple for me to do because I recorded these now about a year and a half ago. So I'm revisiting them and uploading them to YouTube for all of the public to see. They were on my Patreon for the last year and a half, and now I'm well into the 80s, I believe, something like that. So I figure a year later, year and a half later, time to start putting those out to the public. And this is one of them. So Quick Tip 12 is basically a mishmash of tips for making your wash process better. We've all dealt with coffee staining. We've all dealt with the typical issues of washing a miniature and it looking like crap and having to go back and repaint all the panels and all the flat surfaces after you've washed a miniature, and basically the wash turns into a coffee stain and destroys all that work that you just put into. If you were doing any extensive airbrush work or blending or anything, you put a wash over it and then it ends up filtering out basically all your work. To some degree, people are looking for that, sure, because the wash will help tie together some of the situations where you maybe kind of cut some corners, or maybe the whole paint job, like the blend wasn't perfect, and that's great. But what if you're trying to paint something that's really kind of like clean and regal, something like an armiger or even a really nice polished Space Marine suit of armor? Well, in that case, you want that shade to get into the recesses, but not filter so strongly on the kind of flat or like upper surfaces. So it's commonly called coffee staining, and this quick tip is going to give you a couple of tips on how to avoid the coffee staining or having to go back and repaint panels over the wash because it's filtered a darker tone over, say, a blue, like in the video. So I'll quit blabbing. You guys get to watching, and hopefully this will help you guys out, make your lives a little bit easier, and give you a little bit better experience when it comes to washing. So enjoy the quick tip. Appreciate you guys. And real quick, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And also, I have some small news. I started a retail portion on my website, impendingduff.com. So I carry brands like Vallejo, AK Interactive, Abtalone, starting to bring in some MIG products as well. So check it out. If you watch this video, use the discount code YouTube. Simple as that. You'll get 10% off your full order. Thanks, guys. I'll leave the links down below. You know what to do. All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to this week's quick tip. I'm going to talk about washes. And one of the most common complaints I hear about washing is when you apply your washes, they tend to coffee stain or stay blotchy. That's acceptable in certain miniatures, in certain situations. Maybe something that you want dirty, something that you want disgusting, like say Nurgle, or if you're a D&D person, maybe some kind of like dungeon monster or something. But when you're talking something clean, like say armor on a big regal machine like an Armiger or something, or Necrons, or Space Marines, you want, nice clean lines on them, you're going to want to have it flow a little better, if you will, right? So I've got two little Space Marines here. The right side of the silver guy is gloss coated, and you can see on the left side of the Ultramarine here, he is also glossed. Now, what we're looking for is basically the surface tension needs to be broken. When you slap these washes on your miniatures right out of the bottle, they're going to find those recesses, yes, but we need to help them out a little bit. And what gloss coating before your wash stage does is breaks that surface tension of the wash and creates a slick surface for it to kind of find those recesses and get more embedded in the recesses and smooth out over those smooth surfaces, like say the Space Marine's shoulder pad here. Now, it's not going to be perfectly clean, but it's going to kind of filter it less. You'll see the difference between here and here when I go ahead and do this example. So I've got two washes here. I've got Nolan Oil from Citadel, and I've got Strong Tone, or Dark Tone, I'm sorry, from Army Painter. So these are probably the two most common washes used. I'm going to go ahead and these are undiluted. There's no additives whatsoever to them. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add them to the backs of the miniatures here. And then we're going to compare the two. I'm going to use the Nolan Oil on the Ultramarine here. And I'm just going to, do your standard washing here. Remember, this side is gloss, this side is not. So I'm just going to go ahead and do my standard application here, just on the back side of the Marine. And I'm not really being like super careful or anything. I'm just kind of doing my thing, getting it on there. And then of course I want to make sure that I get the opposite side, right? So we go ahead and we slop it on the non-gloss side. And you can already see how it's kind of sticking there on that side where it's more dispersed over here. Let's go ahead and do the back of the leg. Same thing again. You can see it kind of piling up and staying on those flat surfaces here. See that? That's a big problem. Now, when it comes to trying to kind of keep things in order, if you will, what you want to do is kind of stay active with it. If maybe you don't have any clear coat, gloss, or anything at your disposal, do this. I'm going to go right across it just as if it were the same surface. And you can see that surface tension breaking, and that wash is dispersing more on this side versus this side. Now what you can do is you can remain active in your washing process and kind of move things around, right? So I've got a moistened brush here, but I'm kind of moving all of this wash down into the recesses. It's a lot easier to do on the clear coated side. See how I'm working this and it's not really moving on me? Over here, just a couple little brush flicks and it's good to go, right? So keep that in mind when you're working with this. See that? That's a paint tear. We waited too long. We weren't active in our wash. So just kind of work your way around. You can actually get back into your wash and reactivate it all. And just kind of, like I said, stay active in your washing and pull it towards the deepest recesses and shadows. And that'll save you a big headache. Now you're not going to not get any pooling or puddles or stains. It's just not going to be as drastic as this side, right? So let's go ahead and let's switch over to the dark tone from Army Painter. It's very similar in color. It's a black wash, but the consistency is different. It's very thick compared to Nolan Oil. Nolan Oil is very thin. This is very viscous. It's almost got like a slight syrupy consistency, but overall it disperses a lot better than Nolan Oil in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just slap it on this backpack here real quick. And remember, the right side is on this miniature, the left side, I'm sorry, but his left side is clear coated where the right side is not. Now you can see the properties of the Army Painter wash happen to help kind of flow into the recesses a little better versus the Citadel stuff. Now I'm not a big fan of Army Painter's paints per se, but their washes I feel are far superior to the Citadel washes. Do I think Citadel washes are bad? Not at all. They have a specific use. I use them a lot. I tend to use them more for organics than I do mechanical situations like this wash or the Space Marine here. So it's situational, and each person is going to kind of lean towards X, Y, or Z in their painting style. So I'm not telling you anything like you should be using this product versus this product. That's not the takeaway here. The takeaway should be how the how the wash is reacting, if you will. So there we go. I've got a layer of both washes, and I'm trying to remain as active as I possibly can. Now here's the difference between the two, and I can come back when it's dry, but what I want you to notice is the Army Painter wash kind of helps itself. The clear coat almost doesn't matter, almost. But you can see a little bit more pooling over on this side and coffee staining versus this side where the flatter surfaces have kind of dispersed. Where on this one, and keep in mind the clear coat is on this side, the unfinished side is on that. You can see it up in here all the way down. This miniature is much more clean on the clear coated side versus on the untreated side. Now, if I want, I can come back around, we'll flip these dudes around, and what I like to do is mix a little bit of flow improver, not water, but flow improver into my washes. So I started with about 12 drops of each wash in these wells. So I've probably used about, half of it. So I'm going to put 6 drops in there, and I'm going to put 6 drops of flow improver in here. I don't know, that might have been more. But I'm going to check the consistencies. I'm going to start with Nuln Oil. Obviously, this is going to thin it down quite a bit. But once it hits those recesses, and you can already see it's rather smooth compared to what it was. It's going to hit those recesses and kind of collect in those recesses and pool even less on the top surfaces of the panels, etc. So there's also a wash mixing medium that I'll use with the Army Painter stuff, but for the sake of this demonstration, to keep them as similar as possible, I'm not going to use it. Let me actually grab that for you guys here. This is what I'm talking about, the Quick Shade Wash mixing medium. This stuff is like white glue consistency. It's very thick, but it tends to create a very smooth finish in the wash. So make sure you mix these up real good, and then we'll go ahead and we'll tackle these bad boys. So Nuln Oil on the blue Primaris here, the ultramarine. Now I'm using Nuln Oil because this is the most common wash over power armor in my opinion. Again, not in my opinion, it's pretty much fact. Anyway, clear coat here, gloss coat, no gloss coat. You can see that. I'm going to go ahead and apply this, and you're going to notice that this wash will disperse considerably better now that it's been thinned. And thinned with Flow Aid, Flow Improver, Flow Aid. I'm using Vallejo Flow Improver. This is what I use to thin all my paints for airbrushing. You can use Flow Aid from, what's that other, Liquitex. It doesn't matter, but whatever happens, you definitely want to use a flow improver, some kind of surfactant. A surfactant will break the surface tension of a liquid and cover a surface to create more of a hydrophobic, not necessarily hydrophobic. I believe it's actually, I don't know the scientific term to be frank with you, but it actually is not repellent to water, but it kind of pulls it in. It's not hydroscopic, I know that, but the point being is it's okay with water, or it kind of draws water in, right? So you'll see that it's getting into these recesses more. Did I just rip a bunch of paint off there? That's what that is. Yeah, just some paint reactivated, no big deal. Again, this side is not clear coated, so if you work on it, that's another adverse effect there. If you work it too much, you're going to reactivate that paint underneath it. But I've gotten enough to where I think the point can be made here. You can see that that paint, that wash, has dispersed itself so much better. On the clear coat side, it's almost non-existent on those flat surfaces, and you get that nice panel recess shade that everybody likes with Space Marines. But even on the untreated side, or unclear coated, not clear coated side, you get a little bit more of a filtering action with it. It's still dark, but it really is even and it collects. And if you've got really hard pools like this, you can just come in before it dries and soak up a little extra. But I prefer doing the gloss coat on one side versus not. It's just a lot easier and creates a nicer result, in my opinion. Now let's go ahead and do the Army Painter stuff, the Army Painter Quick Shade stuff. And again, not treated, treated. When I say treated, I mean clear coated. But this is kind of one of the most important things that you can think about when you're washing a model like this, especially if you're batch painting something like Space Marines or even Necrons. I do something similar with oils with my Necrons. Oils are a whole different lesson, but we'll get to them eventually one day. I'll definitely be covering those. But you can see I'm undiscriminatively slapping this thing with this wash. There's no rhyme or reason. It's literally finding the recesses and living there. It's not really kind of pooling up too much unless I've globbed it on there. But again, stay active in your process and just push it down. I want all of these shades to end up being in the recesses and in the shadows, right? So if it makes sense that there's a shadow under here, maybe I don't soak up so much of this puddle. But right here where that little thigh plate is, I don't want that puddle there, so I'm going to work it out a little bit. And just keep staying active with it and getting your stuff all slathered on there. And you can see, now metallics do have a kind of gloss finish to them, if you will. So it's going to stay a little more dispersed, but even right here, I'm going to have, and what's nice about that Army Painter stuff is it stays a little more active and doesn't kind of destroy any detail by tearing on you right away. It takes a little longer to dry, so if you have these massive pools, you got time to soak them up. But stay active. I've heard a few of you tell me that you did not know about this until I had brought it up in the Discord or in a private message or whatever, so I figured I'd share it with all of you. Now I'll be back in just a minute. I want these to dry so you guys can see the final effects of both, alright? I'll be right back. So they're not perfectly dry yet. I don't have a ton of time. It's already 3:30 in the morning. I gotta get to bed, but they did dry somewhat, so I wanted to show you guys real quick. This is the known oil where the massive pools would collect. It's not quite dry yet, but you guys get the idea here. The non-clear coated side is much more coffee stained, much darker than the clear coated side, and it goes down all the way. Even this leg is considerably lighter than this side, even though it is a little bit coffee stained there. I did leave intentional coffee stains around just so that you could see the difference. Unfortunately, the paint did tear here, so there's not really a definitive vision here between the not clear coated and clear coated side, but you can see that nice clean line there. That's what we're looking for, is all these clean lines in these recesses. Even on the chest here, you can see that line where it breaks up, and it's nice and bright on the tips of these wings here, but it's really kind of muddled and filtered out on this side where there is no clear coat, no gloss coat. Same thing on this one. This has the clear coat. It's nice and smooth. There's a good gradient there. It's almost like it did the work for you, right? Where on this side, there's next to no shade in this recess. This is the untreated side. This is the treated side. The reason there's not as much in this crack and crevice here is because it doesn't have the surfactant or surface tension breaking property to move it towards these recesses like it does on the gloss coat side. So that's why I like to do the clear coat. It just helps paint move along a little bit. Now I did want to show you, I didn't have time to clear coat him too. I didn't think of it, but there is a way to get clean panel line, and it's literally using a panel liner. This is I believe this is a solvent based. This is not an oil, but is it lacquer? I'm not quite sure, but this stuff is magic because I don't know if it'll pick up in this, but essentially you just tap it on an area and see it kind of does it on its own there. You just tap it and poof, there it goes. It kind of draws its own line. So if you've got detail down here on this skirt, it kind of does its own thing, right? It's a really cool product that just, you tap it, poof, there it goes. See it? And I really like this, but it's not good for light paint jobs. It's only good for dark stuff. So like your blues, your purples, some reds, depends on what it is, but I really dig this stuff. It doesn't take long to dry. It can get into the finest of crevassiers, and you just kind of give it a little tap, and it does the work for you. And if you get a little bit on there like that, you can always just kind of with your finger and get rid of it. But it works so well that I feel like a lot of people overlook it. It even works for these rivets. You just kind of boop, boop. It bleeds out a little bit, but it ends up, when it dries, it disperses. So panel liners can be very helpful too, but that's also where you can use an oil wash, and we'll get into that eventually. I'll do a quick tip or something on it, maybe a YouTube video, who knows, but this stuff is amazing. And you can pick it up at Michigan Toy Soldier. You can even do detail like this, just kind of sweep it across and just hit those recesses, and poof, it takes your panel line perfectly. So those are just some quick tips for you guys on how to panel line or even recess shade, or just use a wash in a cleaner manner. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys found some value in it. Thank you all so much. Have a great one.